Bobby Lee Claremont and the Criminal Element by Jeannie Mobley. Grenada, Mississippi, 2:52 p.m. Leon pondered the whole time Terrence and I ate. "Something's mighty fishy here," he said. "If the insurance money is for the widow, why is Brian Kelly counting on it? And her arrangement with Alphonse Bugeaud, what's that about? He'll vouch for Miss Nettie's marriage to Mr. O'Halloran so she can get the insurance money? But why would Miss Nettie ever give up her share of the Cajun Queen in return? It's got to be worth more than the insurance, doesn't it?" Terrence piped up. "If I owned something that nice, I wouldn't give it up for nothing, no matter what it was worth." I chewed my cornbread, considering. "So it's fancy, then? You been there, to the Cajun Queen?" Terrence giggled. "Bobby Lee don't know nothing about the Cajun Queen," he told Leon, as if Leon couldn't see that for himself. "He didn't even know who Jimmy O'Halloran was before he got on the train and met up with his widow." Leon smirked like an annoying know-it-all. "Oh, and I suppose you fellas took tea with him every afternoon, did you?" I said, feeling more hot under the collar by the minute. Terrence giggled even harder. "You're funny, Bobby Lee. It's easy. If you give a quarter to the stagehand, he'll prop the back door open and you can listen from the alley. So we take up a collection and then he lets us kids peek in as long as we stay quiet. So that's how we know it's nice. Plenty of colored folks gather there when the best bands are playing. Ain't nothing better than good jazz at the Cajun Queen, even if it is from the alley." "Is that how y'all met Clovis Dupre?" "Everyone in the 8th Ward knows Clovis," Terrence said. "Everybody knows everybody in the 8th Ward, period," Leon clarified. "Everyone takes care of their neighbors. Clovis has helped plenty of folks out of hard times with the money he makes playing jazz." "Yeah, well," I said, feeling sore all over again. "If y'all know so much and about so many people, then how'd Jimmy O'Halloran die?" "That's easy," Leon said. "He fell from the 3rd-story window." "I know that, but what made him fall?" I asked. "Or who?" Terrence's eyes opened wide. "You think it was on purpose?" "You tell me," I said. "You're the experts." "Well, I know what was in the papers, and what Clovis and the orchestra said after it happened," Leon said. "Rumors were running wild. There was a party upstairs in the Cajun Queen, a private party with all kinds of muckety-mucks who shouldn't have ought to been out at a gin joint." "What's a gin joint?" Terrence interrupted him, but Leon shushed him and went on with his story. "Word spread about this big party upstairs, and pretty soon everybody and his brother was up to the 3rd floor trying to get past Malcolm Sloan and into that room. So Jimmy O'Halloran had to go try to clear 'em all out, but of course there was a scuffle. Folks started pushing and shoving, and next thing you know, old Jimmy goes right off the balcony and onto the pavement below. Broke his head clean open, they say. Of course, when that happened, everybody ran out of the Cajun Queen like rats off a ship." "What about the party?" I asked. Learning more about this private party on the night of Jimmy's death seemed like a good place to start if I really wanted to find out what happened. "What about the party?" Leon asked. "Who was at it? Why is it such a big secret?" Leon shrugged. "How should I know? Probably the mayor or the chief of police or someone like that. Their types always going to gin joints and trying to cover it up. Why do you want to know?" "There's this cop back there," I said, gesturing in the direction of my train car. "The one we saw in Jackson?" "That's the one. Sergeant Hayworth. He says Mrs. O'Halloran's group is a bunch of cold-blooded murderers. He's following them all the way to Chicago trying to get something on them." "Nanette O'Halloran wouldn't have killed Jimmy." "I don't reckon so either, but I bet we could figure out who did and why if we knew what was going on that night at the Cajun Queen. If the mayor or the chief of police was there like you say, maybe Sergeant Hayworth is trying to hush something up. Or maybe it was some other kind of illegal dealings. It must have been something big if Bugeaud and Jimmy were trying so hard to keep the party private." "And big enough to get Jimmy killed," Terrence said, his eyes big and bright with excitement. "You know," Leon said slowly, "that Malcolm fellow would know what was going on there that night. Didn't Clovis say he was in the car back yonder with you?" "You're right," I said. I turned to Terrence. "You told me you wanted to investigate about the man in the box." Do you still, now that you know who it is? Boy, do I ever, Terence said. What exactly do you have in mind? Leon asked. I'll talk to Malcolm to see what he knows, if you and Terence will have a look in Bugeaud, Kelly, and Mrs. O'Halloran's luggage in the baggage car. What are we looking for? Terence asked. For that insurance policy, to find out if she really has it on her, and for anything that might link Jimmy's death to what went on at that party that we don't know about, secret dirty dealings that maybe the police didn't want anyone finding out about. I can't go through people's luggage, Leon said. Are you chicken? I taunted, glad to be getting a little of my own back. I ain't chicken, but I ain't stupid either. What if I get caught? Just tell him you were doing your job and the trunk popped open. You were just putting everything back that fell out. White folks won't believe that, even if they did bother to ask, Leon said. If it looked to them like I'm stealing, then I'm stealing far as they're concerned. And it's off to jail I go. No slap on the wrist like you'd get. But if you were doing your job, I tried again, a little humbler but still determined. Terence snorted. Leon's got no job here. Hush up, Terence, Leon said, sharper than before. I turned back to Leon, glowing in triumph. I knew it, I crowed. So what were you doing with the mail earlier? Our granddaddy works the train, Terence offered, still as bright and cheerful as ever. And our pop works the cotton. So during the planting and the picking, he's got to go away and we's with granddaddy. That still doesn't explain what you were doing with the mail, I said. Leon ground his teeth. I'm no freeloader, he said, the heat of his embarrassment burning right through into his words. You won't tell, will you, Bobby Lee? Terence said, giving me those big innocent doe eyes again. No, I said, although I wasn't really sure what there was to tell. I hadn't exactly gotten an answer to what Leon was doing working with the mail and baggage, except that it wasn't on the up and up. But for now, I want to know about what had happened to Jimmy O'Halloran more than whatever Leon was up to, so I let it slide. Something had been going on in that third-floor room that had gotten Jimmy killed. I was sure of it. And while I didn't know what it was, I did know it smelled like opportunity. After all, if Bugeaud was willing to pay me $200 to keep my mouth shut when I didn't actually know anything, who knows what he or Kelly would pay if I did know something. And if no one could help me help Nanette O'Halloran, all the better. But of course, knowing more meant convincing Leon to help. You won't get caught, Leon, I coaxed. No one caught you before when you were in the baggage car. You did, he pointed out. You want to find out what really happened that night, don't you? Sure I do, but I got my family to consider. I got to watch out for Terence, and I don't want to get my granddaddy in trouble. If Jimmy O'Halloran was murdered, there might be a big reward for catching his killer, I said. A reward would be a big help to your family, and if we get one, I'll split it with you right down the middle. Leon considered for a moment. There's two of us and only one of you, so why should we split it down the middle? Besides, I'm the one taking all the risk. We split it 3 ways or I'm not doing it. I began to argue since they were together and Terence was too little to be much help. Then I remembered there wasn't likely to be any reward anyway, since I had no intention of turning anyone over to Sergeant Hayworth. I smiled. You drive a hard bargain, Leon, but okay, a 3-way split. We shook on it. Remember, I said, you're looking for an insurance policy and anything else that seems suspicious. Documents, money, smuggled goods. Anything that gives us a hint about what got Jimmy killed. And you'll talk to Malcolm? Leon asked. Soon as I can get him alone. Not that I had any idea how to do that, but I'd try. A prickle of excitement flushed across my skin. This just had to be my big break. There'll be more mail to load at our next stop. I'll try then, Leon said. Meet us back here after you talk to Malcolm and we'll share what we learn. I agreed, barely even feeling guilty about taking advantage of them. It wouldn't be my fault if there was no reward, or if we didn't catch the killer, assuming there even was one. For all I knew, it really had been an accident, and Leon had proved himself pretty clever. I didn't figure he'd get caught. I was taking a risk, too, talking to the muscle-bound bouncer. If he suspected me of sticking my finger between the tree and the bark, he'd squish it flat. It and all the rest of me right along with it. I walked back to my own car, wondering how I would get Malcolm alone. I was thinking, too, of the $200 Bugeaud had offered me, before Dupree had interrupted us and the money had returned to the pocket. I hadn't told Terence and Leon about that. It would be all mine once I could get a chance to negotiate with Bugeaud. And if I'd learned the secret of Jimmy's death before I negotiated, I wasn't sure how much money was in a roll that size, but I wouldn't mind finding out. I returned to the whites-only car to find it surprisingly busy. Countrywomen had apparently been boarding at the last few stops while I was in the colored car. Judging from the basket of eggs, live chickens, and other miscellany, they were local women who'd been out doing their marketing. One leathery old suntanned woman was chewing on a corncob pipe and scratching the ears of the piglet in her lap, as if she was a hillbilly duchess and it was her toy poodle. All in all, they filled the car with enough noise and chaos that my return was hardly noticeable to anyone except for Brian Kelly, who watched my every move as I made my way down the aisle. My small bag was still where I'd left it, holding my seat. On top of it I found a small, neatly folded slip of paper. I carefully unfolded the note and read the stiff, blunt handwriting inside. There are things you should know. Meet me in the smoking lounge. It is in your best interest. The note was unsigned, and of course I had no way of recognizing the handwriting, but I thought I knew who it was from. Bugeaud and Malcolm were both absent from the car, but of the two, Bugeaud didn't care one bit about my best interest. I folded it back up and smiled to myself. My luck was changing for sure. I squared my shoulders, and even though I saw Kelly watching me with suspicion, made my way back in search of the smoking car.